For the past, I'd say 10 plus years, I've known Pat Ivey. He's done a tremendous job at the University of Missouri, played against him several times. He was the strongest man out of the state of Missouri at his university. He also was the National Strength and Conditioning Coach of the Year of this year, 2013. He just completed his PhD in sports psychology from the University of Missouri in 2013. One thing I know about Pat is he's a Christian man, he's a God-fearing man, he's got a great family, he's put together a great staff, and every year his staff continues to grow. He is tremendously dedicated to this profession, and I turn the mic over to Dr. Pat Ivey.
Good morning. It's so great to see everybody here. We were asked to speak, and I always assume when I'm asked to speak, we're asked to speak, that it's for a reason. And so that reason is, we believe right now, is what can we do, the things that we're doing at Missouri, how can we share some of those things? Maybe you can take a few things back and help you at your university. I've seen a lot of sports. I've played college, I've played professional, I've been back to school, and what I've realized that it's about the people. It's about the people around me. It's about my family. It's about my staff. It's about my athletes. It's about my coaches. It's about all the people that I serve. And so the people that I'm serving today, that we're going to serve today, I was asked to speak, but that's just not me. We're going to speak. And I want you to hear the same message from different angles. So taking our profession to the next level. Well, you can look at this and say, how can you speak about this? We're already taking our profession to the next level. So this is not directed at our organization. This is about every one of us accepting a personal challenge individually, collectively, as a unit, moving forward. So I'm going to start this presentation. So I just completed my PhD in sports psych. That wasn't for me. I'm going to tell you, that was not for me. That was for my family. That was for my staff. That was for my coaches. That was for my athletes. My athletic department, it was not for me. When we lost in the Big 12 championship, and one of my best players looked at me and said, "What are we missing?" And it was the mental component. I put it on myself to go find information, and classes after class after class led to the culmination of a degree in sports psychology. So something I've learned along the way, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck, she wrote a book on it called Mindset. And basically here's what we're going to ask of you, is to have an open mind, have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is, I'm already good, I'm a strength coach, I do what I do, I know what I'm about. Growth mindset is, I'm learning, there's a lot I need to know, I'm open to information. If there's a different way to do it, I'm ready for it. Someone gives you and they don't like your program, fixed mindset, well, this is my program, I'm the strength coach, I'm the head strength coach, I'm the assistant, I'm this. Growth mindset is, okay, you don't like that program, that's fine. I've got 100 other ways to do it. How do you want to do it? That's a growth mindset. All right, not just being the best, but being the best you. So those are two different things. Not focusing on the outcome, focusing on the process. Outcome is fixed. Growth is process. So next slide. So professionalism. Mike Alden, he's our AD. He is the president of NACDA. He is the consummate professional. His favorite phrase is, "You're always on." So I'm wearing a suit for the last 2 days because I'm imagining my AD in the back of the room evaluating me, because that's what he does, because that's what ADs do, on how I'm wearing my tie. Do I have a dimple in my tie? Because here's what ADs are taught by the Cardinal Advisors Group. If you don't know Tom Thomas, our AD brings people in to teach us professionalism, because when you step in front of ADs who've been taught this code, and they talk a code, of we only hired made people. They talk this code. I learned this at the D1A Institute my AD sent me to last year. I was the first and only strength coach to be there. Nothing but aspiring ADs and ADs. A lot of your ADs were there. And there's a way to move. When you sit down at your chair, you enter from the left and you exit from the right. Do you know that? ADs are looking at that. There are some head coaches that get it. The ones that get jobs know it. They walk in, bam, it's all laid out. They've been pre-programmed. And the person who is interviewing them is evaluating them on what they're bringing in terms of professionalism. Are you ready? Are we ready? Husker Power. I actually forgot my paper in my, if you can get that for me. I want to go through this. There's a timeline on the website. It's in the Manila folder. Thank you. There's a timeline of Husker Power that started in 1969. And as you read through the timeline, there are things that were happening at the University of Nebraska that we're still wrestling with 20, 30 years later. Why is that? When a blueprint was already laid out, why is it that we are still struggling with some of these ideas? Why is it that 20 years ago when the internet was first launched, HuskerPower.net was launched 1995, and we have people that don't even have their own department on their athletic department's website? Thank you. In 1972, a weekly newsletter. We're struggling with a newsletter. We try to put together a newsletter ourselves, and it's a big deal to us. They were doing it in 1972. Why did they put together a newsletter? To educate people. Propaganda. 1979, Nebraska became the first school to offer a degree in strength coaching. I had a conversation with some coaches this week. We need to establish our own curriculum. Nebraska did it in 1979. They added air conditioning to the weight room, became the first school to take weight room to a bowl game. 81 became the first school to ever have color balanced lights so they could video their athletes lifting and playback. That was in 81. And we think it's a big deal we get flat screens, and we're 93, Boyd Epley was named assistant AD in 93, 21 years ago. Why did he do that? He had issues with the administration. He needed to bridge the gap. He learned a long time ago to make moves and to get his $1 million budget over 15 years ago, $1 million budget. He needed to be tight with the people, go play golf with the person who was over the budget, the strength coach. Bill Burton, the AD, allowed Boyd Epley to create the performance team. We're talking about performance model now. And in 1993, they were completing a performance team 21 years ago. 94, Dave Ellis was hired as the coordinator of nutrition, completing the performance team. They had a staff, a nutrition staff. We're trying to get our first RD. Some schools trying to get your first RD. 20 years ago, they were completing a staff. I hear this thing about the Baylor Army, and that really, the Baylor Army should be something that I used to aspire to. When I saw the Texas A&M Army at schools, that's not an insult. Bring your people here, educate them. That's not an insult. 15 years ago on the Nebraska website, they had 32 people on their staff, 2 administrative assistants. You have to walk up to somebody to check out a belt and check it back in. 32 people. There's someone cutting up video. You go to a movie theater to watch a movie in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it's Husker Power. Donate. They wrote books. They did all kinds of stuff. They're doing all kinds of stuff with performance centers and stuff like that. But we're talking about taking our profession to the next level, and there was a blueprint written 20, 30 years ago. So what are we doing? What are we doing? 32 people on a staff on a website? All right, comprehensive and integrated. Let's move on. Comprehensive and integrated. From A to Z. That's how we think. We think comprehensive and integrated. Comprehensive, are we doing everything we can for our student athletes? Integrated, what I do affects strength and conditioning. Strength and conditioning affects sports nutrition. Sports nutrition affects sports psychology affects academics. Academics affect the training room affects the equipment room affects the weight room. Integrated. I got my foot in somebody else's door, they have their foot in my door. We're working together. Our core values: social responsibility, academic integrity, competitive excellence. We speak these lines. We live these lines. If what we do doesn't fall within these categories, we don't do it. This is what our AD, from the top down. Everyone who works in our athletic department can recite this, from the janitor all the way up to the deputy AD. Here's our organizational chart. So across the top, we have directors. We have directors of strength and conditioning for football, basketball, baseball, Olympic sports, nutrition. Our nutritionist is right there in the weight room with us. We have Brett Hayes, who's part of our, we call it corrective biomechanical and preventative medicine team. PTs that come in the weight room operate right there real time. You got an issue with your squat, you got valgus collapse, you get over there on the table. He works on your glute medius, TFL, make sure everything is in alignment back in the squat rack. We're not waiting. Strength and conditioning. So if you have a fixed mindset that you're just a strength coach, you're going to struggle with what we're talking about. Mental conditioning. Training the athletes how to think. We train ourselves how to think. We put ourselves on the omega wave. We send texts to each other. What were you today? I'm an 8. Oh, I'm a 9. All right, well, recover. Pilates, yoga, sports nutrition, massage therapy, sports science is growing. Coach Stone has a passion for sports science. He's not the only one. Brian Mann is good at it too. Kaylin Stitcher, she's good at it too. We have a sports science team of people that are catapult, that'll be done this summer, Omega Wave, all of that stuff. It wasn't easy, but what I'm telling you about professionalism is how we got it. Being able to write a proposal, submit it to your AD with a strategic plan. Here's a 5-year strategic plan. These are the things we need to be doing. Here's plan A, B, and C. Which one would you like to do? Because all 3 of them I'm ready for. Director of Applied or High Performance, what is this? Better know what it is. And if we think they're going to come from this room, you better grow your mindset, because people with PhDs in exercise physiology are going to be contacted by ADs, ATCs, high-level ATCs, PTs. Sports psychology people are going to be contacted about Director of Applied Performance. It is not just going to come from this profession. So if you're thinking forward and thinking ahead, you might want to start preparing yourself. You might want to start preparing your staff. Athlete-centered, science-based, coach-driven. We're the support staff. We support our coaches support our athletes. Without the strong foundation, our coaches have nothing to stand on. Without proper coaching, our athletes can't perform and achieve self-actualization. All right, so that's the end of my portion of this presentation. I'm going to pass the mic. What I want to do first is show a video. What this video consists of is different people in our athletic department, outside of our athletic department, that are talking about athletic performance in their view, their vision, and what they expect from us. So as you listen to this, don't just think about University of Missouri. Think about yourself. Think about what your people say about you. Think about what you want your people to say about you. All right. Video, please. It's in the back somewhere. Video, please. He's taking a nap. Wake up.
There's been a dramatic change in what strength and conditioning coaches do now compared to years ago. For me, as somebody that's been a long, long time in this business, has seen how it's evolved, and it's cool to see the significance it makes for your student athletes.
Athletic departments have caught up. The evolution has brought us to where we now are acknowledging we need a director of academics, we need a director of sports medicine, we need a director of athletic performance. And it isn't just strength and conditioning, it's the whole thing. And that really serves coaches and athletes.
Back in the day, strength, speed, quickness, those things were developed in the best way they could, and certainly not the level close to what it is now. But that's really what the focus was, strength, speed, and quickness. Always in mind, all these things are prevention of injury.
Defining rehab, in my opinion, is restoring the athlete to the level of their pre-injury fitness. So not just getting the injury better, but making sure that when the athlete does recover, that they've had ample opportunity to transition back into their activity. So we kind of use that term here of transitional therapy, where we actually incorporate our athletic performance staff in their overall return to activity.
The nutritional standpoint has been all about education. And years ago you never even talked about it. A few years ago you mentioned it, but now we have a nutritionist on board here that actually we work with our student athletes in educating them the importance of nutrition. You want to be this high level athlete, you want to compete at the highest level and be the best you can be. Well, nutrition now is a component in there. It's a very important component. And that's what the body composition through nutrition, through weightlifting, can get you to be the best that you can be.
But the equipment manager, the athletic performance, the strength coach, and the trainer work hand in hand with everything from not only training when somebody's healthy, but now when somebody's injured. How can we rehab them, get them back? I can protect it with this amount of stuff. You can do this kind of treatment, but when we're training them, we got to be smart about that. We got to do the right things when we're lifting. Beyond that, we got to do the right things when we're eating to help that whole thing. I mean, it's absolutely a really living, breathing, constant flow that we've got to deal with all the parts of our department.
We work directly with the weight room, the training room, physical therapy. All those things are very, very important.
We have some of the best minds in strength and conditioning about 100 yards from our facility, so instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we partnered with them.
Having an athletic performance team that we have that is very holistic in their approach toward our athletes, it brings in so much more of a knowledge base to take care of our athletes, and they understand that they need other knowledge bases, other experts in their field to help them with that task. And I think it says a lot to a team that is really good at what they do, but also humble enough to know that they can reach out to other experts to come in and help them out and make them welcome as part of the team.
We also have massages for our players. It's all about taking care of your body. That's all, these things are talked about with those three different areas all the time.
Communication is certainly an aspect that everybody talks about, everybody understands it's real important, but not everybody does it. And I think that the relationship that we have here, it certainly fosters great communication.
The open communication between our department and his department is what makes our student athletes very successful here.
Mental training, that's a whole different level now. That's very intriguing to me. We've done a lot of things with Dr. McGuire here, Dr. Ivey, in terms of the mental side of competition.
This sports psych piece adds to what we're doing in that weight room. I didn't have to go sell it to the strength coach. The high performance, athletic performance director got it. He just integrated it into his stuff in the weight room. Now all strength coaches have it. It's part of every day here. If I never talk to a team, great sports psychology service is being delivered every day in this department through the high performance director of athletic performance's efforts, through the strength and conditioning coaches, integrated in what they do every day. And the players will tell you that.
Positive coaches have helped me not only on the field, but off the field too. A lot of people criticize me. They talk nasty slangs to me. My positive coaching just park it, refocus, and know what's going to be the best for me. So it helps me not only just become a football player, but as a human being too, as a man.
Not only are you looking at the student athlete and how they can perform on the court or the field, but you're also looking at how they interact with each other on the team and interact in the community. So the social aspect of it is very, very important. And then there's just the friendship that comes out of spending a lot of time with an athletic performance professional.
So those are some of the, still on? Those are some of the things. If you want to hear the full interviews,
Coach Ivey, this message for you.
What? What was that? Can you start that over? What was that? Yeah, you're supposed to play that. It stopped. Yeah. Yeah.
No, what is that?
All right. Yep, that one right there. That's C.T. Fletcher sent a message to me. But that's the wrong. No!
Such thing as words to my word count. And you're overtrained.
Didn't go over too well.
We're not going to put that one on the website. That's CT Fletcher doesn't, we don't agree on overtraining. That's okay. We'll work that out later. I'm going to pass it now to Josh Stoner. I hope you listen to the words that Gary Pink, our head football coach, he can speak about strength and conditioning on this stage right here with me. He can talk about power, explosion, speed. He can talk about, he understands velocity-based training. Not because he's the head football coach, but because he's been educated. And it's our job, my job, to educate him. He can talk about numbers, vertical jump correlating with 40. He can talk all of that, just like we can. And that happens with education, communication. So I'm going to pass this to Josh Stoner, our Director of Football, Strength and Conditioning. Thank you.
We can't do the coat. Morning, everybody. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. I know you had a choice. We appreciate you making the choice to spend the morning with us. I'm going to talk about staff because that's what drives everything. So whether you're at Coastal Carolina or the University of Missouri, one has a budget that the total budget matches just the football budget. You might just have a $3 million budget. Whatever the case is, you need people. You need people. So staff has to be first, has to be a priority. But as I get into this, I wanted to share with you guys, I spent 8 years at Missouri from 2004 to 2012. Then I had an opportunity to go to Coastal Carolina the last 2 years as the director of speed, strength, and conditioning, and the head football coach there, his name is Joe Moglia. If you're not familiar with him, I just wanted to share real quick about him. He came out of college, he was in high school, had his first child in high school, so he started early. And he started coaching right out of high school. So all the way through college, his college, on past college. So for 16 years, he was a football coach. And he was working his way up, just like a lot of football coaches do, working hard. He was a D coordinator at Dartmouth, had one of the best defenses in the nation, got a call from the University of Miami. This was right after their first national championship in the 80s. Right at the same time, his wife said, I want a divorce. So at the time, coaches don't make that much money. So he makes the decision to leave coaching, go into business, because that's his second passion. He ends up being with Merrill Lynch, one of their top executives. He gets the call to go to Ameritrade to be the CEO. Okay, this is a guy who started as a football coach. CEO Ameritrade merges with TD, becomes TD Ameritrade, runs them through the recession. They're one of the most successful companies through the recession. Go from like $700 million in holdings to like $4 or $5 billion, I believe. So he's a CEO. He's making $25 million a year. So he, in 2008, he says, I'm good here. I'm going to call my own succession. He names his successor, steps down. He's still the chairman. He moves on. He gets the coaching bug again. He goes to Nebraska. He's there for 2 years as an unpaid intern, just doing whatever he can. Goes to UFL Nighthawks as the head coach. Then he goes to Coastal Carolina as the football coach. Oh, he can't coach football. 8-5, 12-3. He can coach football. He knows what people are about. It was staff first. It wasn't about our facilities. It wasn't about anything. It was about getting the right people and getting those players on board. So, where's this thing at? Why do I go through all that? We're going to talk about responsibility. Staff, whose responsibility is it? Well, number one, you got to accept responsibility for yourself. This is how Joe Moglia has operated since he was a football coach, through Merrill Lynch, through TD Ameritrade, into football. This is how he ran everything. He expected his people to accept responsibility for themselves first. What does that mean? What does that mean for me? I need to have a plan. So I have to have a plan. Coach Ivey has a plan. Heitmeyer has a plan. Hosnick has a plan. Bernie has a plan. Bird has a plan. All the rest of our staff has a plan. We got to have a plan. Okay? As directors, we have to accept responsibility for our department. Okay? What does that mean? Well, I got to accept responsibility for my staff development, for the budget, for anything that happens in the weight room. Even if I just coach football, If I'm a director of all sports, then I got to accept responsibility for everything else, so on and so forth. You got to understand the consequences for your actions. So accept responsibility for yourself, understand the consequences for your actions. That can be positive or negative. You have positive consequences for making positive decisions. Where do we start? We start with our mission, okay? We want it to be understandable and repeatable. So if you don't have a mission, you want to sit down and do it together. If you do have a mission, sit down and look at it together, okay? Sit down and look at it together. If it needs to be revised, revise it. We just revised ours. I'm going to share it with you in a minute. We thought it was too long, too much, couldn't understand it, couldn't repeat it, so we revised it. So do it together, create clarity around that mission. That is what you want your outcome to be. That's what your mission is. What do you want to be? What's your mission? To accomplish the mission, you got to have standards. Okay, standards are your behaviors that you expect every day from your staff and yourself to accomplish the mission. You want to hold yourself to them. Okay, so I'm going to take that standard. I'm going to set it. I'm going to take it to the highest level. I'm going to demand that from my teammates. But then I'm going to help them get there if they're not getting it, okay? Our mission, okay? Our mission is to be great servant leaders to our teams and individuals to accomplish the goal of creating champions for life, okay? And it's just like what Coach Ivey said earlier, our core values. We got a social aspect, we got an academic aspect, competitive aspect. So right there in our mission statement, we're saying we are going to support the mission of the athletic department. Further, we're going to provide comprehensive integrated, which Coach Ivey already talked about, innovative approaches to sport psychology. You heard Coach McGuire talk about our integrated sports psychology program, strength and conditioning, and nutrition, okay? They're going to be science-based, efficient, effective, productive, and fun. So that's what we do. That's our mission. What do we do? Our standards. I'm going to be a communicator. So that's not, I'm going to walk in your office and ask you what you did last night, how many beers you drink, or I don't know, whatever. I'm going to communicate significant, relevant information. Hey, I know you work with softball. I was out at, X restaurant, and I remember you talking about in a staff meeting that this person was struggling with this, and I saw him, and I kind of noticed it, so I just wanted to let you know what was going on. Okay, thanks. Then that coach can take that to their head coach or the trainer or whoever that needs to take it to. Communication. Having a growth mindset. So that's one of our standards. We expect our staff to have growth mindset. We expect you to understand the mission. So that's why it's got to be understandable. Understand the mission. What are we trying to, what is our outcome? What are we looking to get every day? Being accountable. So you create that through communication, having a growth mindset, understanding the mission, and expecting each other to do those things, demanding it from each other and helping each other. You create accountability. So why does all this matter? You want to create a great culture. You want to create a great culture. We talk about culture a lot. I put organizational citizenship, okay? All that is it's a concept that means you're doing voluntary things that really don't benefit you directly, okay? So it's not a formal responsibility. So I'm not going to get my responsibility sheet of paper and it's not going to say, pick up that pencil on the floor. So I'm walking through the weight room. Hey, there's a pencil on the floor. Those damn interns didn't do their job, punks. Or, hey, there's a pencil on the floor. I'll pick it up and just go put it up. Whatever. No big deal. I'm not going to get rewarded for that. Nobody's going to say good job. It's just part of what we do. Sport coaches aren't... If you read the media, ultimately what we're expecting sport coaches to handle are to be the sports psychologist, to be the counseling psychologist, to be the strength and conditioning coach, to be the nutritionist, and handle technical preparation for their sport. Their job is to win. Their job is to coach X's and O's and recruit in college. That's their job, okay? So where are they getting the help from? Where are the experts at? The experts are us. Okay? We need to be those experts. Professionalism, if you had a chance to talk to Latrice Sales, who's been around, she had a presentation yesterday with Justin Paysinger from the NCAA. Our perception in our field isn't that high, okay, from a national level. When we're here, it's high because majority of us respect each other, okay? But when we step outside the confines of strength and conditioning, perception changes, okay? And I just want to throw this up there. Coach McKeefery on his Iron Game Chalk Talk series has an interview with her. It's about 45 minutes long. I encourage you to listen to it, okay? A lot of great information, a lot of great things to think about. Perception is not positive. So why do I have Leslie Chow up there, okay? So Leslie Chow from The Hangover, the guy that jumps out of the trunk naked and starts doing all the crazy stuff, right? He's funny, right? No? Funny. He's funny. I think he's funny. All right, so his name is Ken Jeong, MD. He's a medical doctor who just happened to get into the movies, and he happens to be funny. He's licensed to practice medicine in California, graduated from Duke University undergrad, went to North Carolina to get his medical his MD. But because what you see, your perception is he's just a funny guy who does movies, who jumps out of trunks naked and does crazy stuff in the Hangover movies. But he's really an MD, so he doesn't have to do it. So I'm standing up here in my suit. I'm a strength coach. What's your perception right now? That guy can't coach. He's just a suit guy. He's a politician. He's a bureaucrat. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there because I've been there. I've been doing this, a little bit of time, so I've been there, so I understand those thoughts. This is how we operate. We operate Abraham Maslow, hierarchy of needs. This is how we think. We try to incorporate it into what we think because a lot of times this pyramid gets inverted. So we bring these kids in, recruit them hard, bring them in. Hey, achieve your potential right now. Okay, but then we forget about their basic needs, their physiological needs, rest, food, water, clothing, their safety needs, health, their general health. So that's why athlete monitoring is becoming important. You provide those services, they feel better about their health. Okay, that raises their level of safety, their feeling of safety, their basic needs, their family, how they can take care of them in the future. Same thing for your staff. This doesn't just apply to your athletes. So you want to think about these things if you're in charge of a staff, then you want to be thinking about these things. Belongingness, acceptance, so acceptance within that group, part of a team, part of a group. Okay, so if your situation is you got 4 facilities all around the campus, but nobody ever talks to each other, it's hard to feel part of a group. You're all wearing the same logo, but you're not really part of a group. Okay? And whether you like it or not, that's affecting you. And it affects athletes too. So having a dining hall where they can all interact with each other helps your department, helps your athletic department. Your esteem needs, the feeling of recognition, feeling of accomplishment. Hey, good job. Nice work. Positive coaching. Positive coaching. Not always focusing on what they got to get better at, focus on what the strengths are, build those strengths, and accentuate those strengths. And then you get to the top where you're actually achieving your potential. You can meet challenges, you can be creative, you can do all those things. How am I doing? Good. So in the beginning, what do you want to do? You got to prioritize. So I mentioned earlier budgetary differences. Everybody's got a different situation. Think about what you're going to prioritize. So this is more directed at people who make those decisions, directors, leaders of departments. What are your financial resources? Where are you going to put your time? And I said in the beginning, making your staff a priority, making it first. Coming to this conference every year, making it a priority because it's a great opportunity to learn and keep your CEUs. And now you got even more ammo because the NCAA says you have to be certified. Okay? You come to one conference a year, 3 years, you keep your certification. Going back to financial resources, if you're putting your staff first, that means you have to say, I'm going to spend this much money on my staff. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy these clothes. I'm going to pay for this staff development trip. And then what's left over is when you can start thinking about what you want to get. So if it means you give up something you want, I'm not talking about the things you need, something you want. So you're going into the exhibit hall, I really want that. Well, you might have to give it up so you can take care of your staff. So that's the way we think. That's the way we're operating. Put that bottom line up front. Keep it simple. If you're talking to your administrator or your budget, whoever's in charge of your budget, your planning, keep it simple. Put that bottom line up front. Have a plan. Coach Ivey talked about strategic planning, having a plan for your department, how it's going to grow, how you're progressing in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Ultimately, you can't be upset with the results you didn't get with the work you didn't do. Okay? I stole that from the Navy SEALs, and they're a pretty hard-working group. Okay, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because these things are going to get touched in the next few with our next few speakers. Have staff meetings. You get organized. Communicate, you create clarity of purpose, you get to interact with each other, receive valuable input back and forth, you create that trust, you keep each other accountable. It's a great way to do it. You do it once a week, and you do it consistently. Don't cancel meetings just because somebody's not there. Take notes, give them the notes, move on. Invite other people to those meetings. So invite people onto your turf. Show them that you're talking about other things besides sets and reps. We've asked our counseling psychologist, Dr. Debbie Wright, she's full-time in the department now. We've asked her to come to our meetings. So on and so forth. So whoever's in your department, bring them in, let them teach you. Let them see how you guys operate behind closed doors. Staff activities, clean together. Clean the weight room together. Set up a time. It sucks, yeah, because you don't want to clean, but do it together, okay? Put on some crazy music, some Disney tunes, whatever you like, and clean. We put on Disney music, so that's why I said that. They put on Disney music. Have lunch together, we're active, a lot of us are still active, so go play a game together. Have cookouts at somebody's house or at the park, okay? It doesn't have to be a big extravagant thing, you just throw some burgers on and eat. Have staff in services. I know a lot of people actually do this stuff already, so sit down and watch a webinar together. If you got specific members of your staff who have expertise, Olympic lifts, FMS, athlete monitoring, have them do in services for the staff. Compliance meetings, okay? We talked about compliance. That kind of keeps coming up. I've kind of heard it over the last, day and a half. So bring your compliance people, set up a meeting, have them educate you on all the new things that are going on. So just before we came to this conference last week, we had our compliance meeting with our compliance officer. She came in, gave us a presentation. We gave her a lot of, we gave her the business about, the things like the 5-strength coach rule and stuff. But it wasn't mean. We were just talking and creating dialogue to let her know that, hey, can we do something about this? Specific development opportunities on your campuses, okay, having staff, getting staff to know and understand themselves by doing Myers-Briggs analysis, Strengths Quest 360 evals. Be creative. Be creative. You don't have to spend money on everything. You be as creative as you can. So we do a lot of stuff on campus with Dr. Greg Holliday, and a lot of it's free. He's our talent management director at the University of Missouri, and we work with him on a yearly basis to do a lot of these things, and it doesn't cost us money. Apple, Steve Jobs, highly creative company, so thinking about how those types of companies operate, they meet the needs of the people, those people actualize themselves, and you create a great creative environment. Involve yourself. So if I'm a director, be at the senior staff. So if at our place it's called senior staff, so it's where all the department heads are sitting around the table giving out information. Senior staff, executive staff, full staff meetings, head coaches meetings, these things happen on campuses. So, and if they're not, maybe you can be the person to start it up. Make that suggestion. Have agenda items to discuss. So for example, the last 5 or so weeks, we've been sitting in our senior staff. First, we talked about catapult athlete monitoring. We talked about polar athlete monitoring. We talked about omega wave athlete monitoring. We talked about the new deregulation of food. We threw up the slide that I just had up there with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We talked about that, how everything fit together, how the deregulation of food met the basic needs of the athletes and how it worked up. And yeah, so that's what we did. We did faster. Coach Heitmeyer is going to talk about that. So sitting in there and just taking 5 minutes to talk about those things. Assistants, GAs, go meet with your administrators of the sport that you work with. So if I work with softball, go meet with them. Have lunch or meet in their office. Make it kind of informal, okay, so you guys can get to know each other. Have topics to discuss. Don't just go in there blank. Staff evaluation. So as a director, I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to make it worth your time. I'm going to ask you, what are you trying to achieve? So what are you trying to achieve? What are your thoughts? What's going on? Are you achieving it? If not, why not? Okay, what do we need to do to help you achieve those things? What can I do to help? What can I do to help? Okay? I'm going to evaluate you. I'm going to let you evaluate my role. I'm going to let you evaluate me. I'm going to ask you about your career, and we're going to talk about the rest of the staff. Not in a negative, get rid of that dude way, or gal, lady. It's, what do you think about our staff, how we operate, what can we do to keep getting better? At the end of the day, it's about the law of the chain. Okay, the strength of the team is impacted by the weakest link. I would imagine that the majority of us have used this at some point with our teams, our athletes, or you've heard it. If you are the weakest link, then it's probably because you have the wrong attitude, you have the wrong agenda, and you're just a poor teammate, okay? But all those things can be changed. And if you are a great teammate and you see somebody like that, then you can help them change. And if they can't change, then the team needs to change that person, which is you're probably not going to be there long, okay? But you still keep it positive. So let's have some realistic expectations. All this stuff we're talking about, all the stuff I just talked about, I'm not going to guarantee you anything about salaries, your position, or improvements. But what I will guarantee you is the probability increases if you work hard at these things and try to improve yourself and accept that responsibility. We are going to move on to the staff handbook with Coach Holznick. Was that 15 hours on? Jeez. What a slap.
Breaking stuff. Okay. So yeah, I'm Mackenzie. I'm going to talk a little bit about the organization of our staff and kind of how we are able to accomplish a lot of the things that we do. Pat talked about this slide earlier. This is our organizational chart. We actually don't do this for us. This is a document that we send out to our administrators, to our athletic trainers, to physical therapists, to every academics, to everybody that we work with. It has our names, our positions, and the teams that we work with. Kind of, we go up the chain, like you said, directors across the top, and it works its way down. But this is for other people outside of us. It's something so simple that you can do. Just create this one-page document that sums up your department for all those who aren't as familiar with your department. So these relationships and people skills, they're free. They don't cost any money, but they can help you help yourselves if you develop these relationships and do these simple things for people. So along with that, more of our kind of day-to-day stuff is we have weekly staff meetings. It's kind of unreal how many people don't meet as a staff on a weekly basis. You know, we constantly complain or moan and, you know, whatever about working so many hours, but if our staffs were all on the same page and had the same goals, the same things in mind, the same direction, you could save so many work hours by just having a 1 or 2 hour staff meeting every week, by all being on the same page and coming together. Then we also have our shared networks and our drives. So on our computers, we had our IT people set up just that, shared network. And so all of our files are in one central location. We have our individual files, so different projects that I'm working on or Pat's working on, Gianna's working on. We also have our team folders, so a soccer folder, a softball folder, etc. So this really helps with staff turnover or position changes or changing of roles, etc. All of that stuff, I can go, if I get a new team, I can go on there and I can see what they've been doing for the past 2 years with the coach before me. Or like in Coach Stoner's situation where he left and then came back, his folder was still there from all the stuff that he was doing before. So we have all of this available to our staff members, so it's kind of helping us not forget anything because it's all in one central location. Also on that same server, we have our staff library, and it is accessible again to everybody. It has, I can't even tell you how many books, presentations, videos, audio books, etc., all in this one place. So if you have a question, if you need resources, there's, I would guess, over 1,000 different books. We'll rent books from the library and put them on this. You know, we'll scan them in, put them on there. We're not emailing it out to everybody, but we have it available to our staff if we need it. Next is we have a staff handbook, which I'm going to continue talking about, but it's every staff member gets it, and it is something that we feel is really important in the development of our staff members, and it's really important for those outside our department to know kind of that we have it together, that we have everything that we're doing in this one book. It's not small, it's like 360 pages, but it's something that has just grown over time. And every document in that handbook is viewed on a yearly basis. So not necessarily all at once, because that would be torture, but at a yearly basis. So at our staff meetings, we'll pick 1 or 2 documents to go over, revise, etc. So all in all, we're thinking big picture and longevity for our department. You know, we talked about the lack of job security and the turnover, etc. But if we can set it up and have it better than when we came in, that's going to help promote longevity for our profession. If we make it easy for the next guy to come in, it's kind of paying it forward, because you're hoping that wherever you're going next, it's going to be a smooth transition, everything's going to be organized, and you're going to be able to go and just coach and do the fun stuff. So this is our staff responsibilities. Again, this is another document not for us. We turn this into administration, and it has all of our different responsibilities. So I'm going to read down the left-hand column there. Well, it has the people and their positions at the top, and then down the left-hand column, it has your team responsibilities, so which teams you're programming for, your sport administrators, it has your team physician, your team surgeon, and then this is the football page, so different responsibilities that you carry with that specific sport team. Here's the bottom half of the same document, and again on the left side it has administrative responsibilities, and then it has like professional organization kind of roles. So again, this is something that we don't do for us, we do for administration, we do to those around, we do it for those around us, and it's also a really good tool. This is kind of administration language here, okay? When you go to administration and you talk about the need for another position or another part-time position, or can I split this into 2 because this person's just doing so much, this puts it all on paper. It's not just going in and listing off, rattling off all the awesome things that we do. This is on paper where administration can see the justification for new positions or new resources or additional budget increases, etc. And it's kind of, nothing gets forgotten. If it's all written down, you don't forget any of it. So like I talked about before, we have our staff handbook, and it's this giant monster of a document right now, but it definitely didn't start that way. It was an evolving document, I think started in '05 when Pat started at Mizzou, came from Tulsa. But it is, since then it's grown, it's changed, and the staff members, every staff member who has come through Mizzou has impacted that staff handbook, and it is a very fluid document. Like I said, we review it on a yearly basis. So these are just kind of the general outline. There's also a very condensed version on our website. Pat will talk about that at the end. And then here's the second half. So your staff handbook will probably look very, very different than our staff handbook, because it's very specific to your department, to your personnel, and to the things that the services that you're providing to your athletes. So it may be as simple as you write it down on a piece of notebook paper, or you just put what different sections that you want on a whiteboard, and that's your staff handbook until you and your staff can develop it further. So I kind of talked about examples of how we are organized at Mizzou, but really the main point of my part is why is it important? And a couple people have already talked about our perception, and Latrice Sales, the video, she talks about our perception. We talked about it in Latrice and Justin's presentation yesterday. And with the perception of our profession, we have a ceiling. We've created a professional ceiling in terms of pay, in terms of position, it's just in terms of professionalism in general. And so it is our job, we have to be the solution. We can say, it's this person, we can't talk to administrators, et cetera, but it is our job to find the solution. Instead of coming to conferences, as a younger coach, I come to conferences and I hear people talking about, oh, well, I can't do this because of this, and my athletic trainer sucks, my nutritionist, we don't get along, et cetera, but rarely is it talked about what we can do to fix the problem. So we can all come in and complain together and just commiserate together, but I think it would be a lot more productive if we came up with solutions. And organization, I think, is part of it. Like, we're meatheads and we're nerds, but we have a responsibility to our profession to become professionals. So it involves higher level thinking. And then lastly, this is, going off of the previous slide, everything that we are trying to accomplish, that we want to accomplish in our departments, it takes planning, it takes organization. Administration has to see that you have it together. So Mizzou went from, in 2004, we went from a $300,000 operating budget to less than 10 years later, a $1.4 million operating budget. That doesn't happen if you're not organized. It doesn't happen if you don't have a plan. So you can either have a plan or you can be a part of somebody else's plan. It's kind of up to you. I'm going to hand it off to Gianna Heitmeyer. She's going to tell you actually about her plan. So
we're going to take it to a little bit more of a practical level of how we grew our nutrition department. So it says on here, SCCC to an RD. Starting out with this, we don't have a nutritionist, there's a need for a nutritionist, we don't have any money. We're not gonna be able to hire someone to come in and be our nutrition person. So how did we actually grow that department and start our department? First we said, is there a need? Yes, we all agreed with that, there is a need out there. Do we want to recognize that need? And then we had to want to address that. So you can't just say, oh yeah, we need nutrition, and then I don't really want to do anything about it. So one of those things is, this is how we show what organization, strategic planning, growth mindset can do to create something in your department once you actually recognize that it's there. I'm going to start out by saying the whole main message being, you do not have to be an RD to have a nutritionist on your staff. You do not have to have an RD to have someone doing nutrition on your staff. A lot of the stuff that we do is free. It's stuff that we create. You do not require me to have a degree to do it. I'm going to take you kind of on the timeline of how we did that. This is where we started. I was hired full-time in 2006. Our budget was $30,000 to buy cups, to buy Powerade, and then we provided Go Shakes and Balance Bars. That was all we provided in 2004, or in 2006, that's it. We had no services, no counseling services, no meal plans, nothing like that, and we did a dining hall for just a few teams. I want to say it was like football, wrestling, and volleyball, and that was it. So that's exactly where we started. So timeline, I was hired as the director of sports nutrition in 2007. I went back and got my RD in 2011. So the time difference between those two, we operated with a nutritionist on our staff for 4 years before I actually had the RD credential. Just so you guys know, in HR, my title is still Assistant Coordinator of Weights and Film. So that hasn't changed. The very first thing we did, step one, we went out and researched what everyone else in the conference is doing. What was Kansas doing at the time we were in the Big 12? What's Kansas doing? What's Baylor doing? What's Oklahoma doing? We wrote it all down, figured it all out, and then we went through a proposal asking about what are the goals of our program going to be, why do we need to do that, and then how can we actually help our student athletes with the nutrition program. Then the next page went through, why are we going to provide supplements? How is it going to serve our student athletes overall? And then how much is it going to cost them? Because let's face it, that's what they're interested in. The last page, we went through all the number part of it. How much are we currently spending? How much are we proposing to spend on all these supplements and all the things that we want to do? Do we have any sponsorships? Are we going to be sponsored by Gatorade or Muscle Milk or Balance Bar? Or what are we going to do to be able to cut some of that cost away? How much more do we actually need? And then what's the cost total per student athlete? We took this 3-page document, turned it into administration. That was the start of our nutrition program. So, very first thing we did, step one, we bought sport-specific water bottles for every single team. Everybody likes free stuff. Everyone gets excited when you get stuff. They were very excited to get water bottles. We created a nutrition acronym called FASTER. 6 things we felt like were most important to them that we were going to base all of our teachings off of. My office location is actually in the weight room. I still consider myself to be a strength coach. I'm in the weight room with all the rest of the athletic performance staff. When I look out into the weight room, this is what I see. Every single athlete comes into the weight room. Not every athlete goes to the training room. If my office was down the hall, and God knows where, it wouldn't be there either. They're not going to come there. But because every athlete comes to the weight room, I have access to all of them at any time. They have access to me at any time. Biggest methods of education, this is my front line right here. There's one of me. I have an assistant and a GA. There's 540 athletes. There's a lot more strength coaches that can help me spread the message. So if I utilize my strength staff and I utilize that group to go out and spread those messages to the teams that I can't get to on a daily basis, that message is still getting out and we're still growing a department. We're still saying the message over and over again. Coach Ivey talked about the integrated comprehensive program. That's step one for us. So they're saying the same message that I'm saying. We're educating the staff and then they can carry that out. I'm going to go through some of the methods of education. Again, none of this costs us money. We create handouts about whatever we feel like they're talking about or they need to know about. So fast food, it's a big thing. We want to know, we created a handout about it. How to go shopping in the grocery store. We want to know, they talk about it, we create a handout about it. We have a video board over our Nutrition Oasis right now that does probably 50 different slides that we scroll through. They sit there, they hang out, and they just happen to glance up at the TV and they're learning at the same time. So we're showing our message over and over again in the weight room. Another example of another slide. Inside my office, I have what we call the nutrition corner. It has the recipe and smoothie of a month, plus like a hot topic that they can read about. Outside my office, there's 6 places that we can put handouts. So right now, we just finished up our summer manual for nutrition, where we have every letter of FASTER has a handout, and then they can come get a cookbook from us as well as information about how to use that. Other methods of education, this is in our Nutrition Oasis. Again, it's a whiteboard with papers taped to it. That did not cost us money to do that. We created and went through all the grocery ads for the week, and we picked out the things that we felt like was foods that they were going to buy. We created meals from that and posted it on the board so that they can go through there and say, oh, well, I'm going to go to Aldi's this week. I can create a meal out of this. I'll just take this paper with me and go. P-charts. Every athletic bathroom and every athletic facility on campus has this over top of the toilets. So everyone who goes to the bathroom, everyone's going to look at it. In our dining hall, we use a go, slow, whoa system. This is and the first picture shows on our columns in the actual dining hall. It shows them as they're walking in, it explains what the green, yellow, and red means. And then over top of every food, we have a green, yellow, and red label. So they can go through there and they can kind of be educated, but also apply that, hopefully, once they leave there, knowing what the green actually means. We use the napkin dispensers. We make little handouts, we share it with academics. So academics uses one side to put all their important announcements, we use the other side to put all our nutrition information. We change it out every month. So while you're sitting there talking and hanging out in the dining hall, again, they're going to be messing with the napkin dispenser. All of a sudden, I'm getting questions about things that we posted in there. We have a lot of food models and things that we've collected over the years. Fat tubes, an example of what muscle and fat looks like, different ideas of what a portion size will look like. So we use a lot of these things as well when we're educating the teams beforehand, before workouts. Part of the integrated messages, we go into different areas and we share the message and put it into different language so that it kind of crosses over. This is some of our sports psych messages with a nutrition twist on it in the dining hall. So we have 3 different messages. One of them is about focus, foods you can choose to help you focus, using the same language that they get during mental conditioning from our sports psych people. Choosing is another one, same thing. Your choice to pick the right foods that are going to help you, and then thinking right. Right foods, wrong foods, what does that mean? What does it look like, and what are those examples? In academics, another place for us to put some handouts. Again, it's just us getting our message out as much as possible into whatever area they're in. If they're in academics, we want to have our stuff in academics. If they're in the training room, we want to put stuff in the training room. So we're trying to get our message out as fast as possible. So let's fast forward a little bit. Where are we now? We hired a paid intern in 2012. He is a certified strength coach, he is a chef, and he is an RD. So all 3 of those things. He's an intern, a paid intern. I have a graduate assistant that we hired in 2013. She will be a certified strength coach by the end of this year. And right now, our budget at the time, what you remember, was $30,000. Now we're at about $250,000. We started out using the Student Opportunity Fund that every school has. We started with that and got the water bottles from there. So it wasn't even that I had to have a budget to start with. And then it just kind of grew once we started going through that money. But it didn't happen all at one time. That's a span of 10 years, and the reason that it happened is because of the strategic plan. So we talked a lot about having a plan, and what is your plan, and make sure you have a plan and have something to talk about. We had something to talk about. We're planned out for nutrition, exactly what we want to do for the next 3 years by semester. This is just kind of some of the pictures of where we're at. So we have a Nutrition Oasis right now that was donated to us. So we put their name on the wall. It's in the weight room. These are some of the bars that we provide. This is our bar section. 16 different flavors. We do bunches of different shakes, Gatorade, muscle milk, chocolate milk, a couple different sizes. We keep our signage over top of all of our nutrition stuff. So over on our Gatorade machines and over on our ice machine, we have a bunch of information, again, about our nutrition program. So we call it Zootrition. We're telling them to hydrate. This is our smoothie machine. We have the FASTER acronym on the smoothie machine. We use the 100% fruit Dr. Smoothie. We use liquid vitamins. All this is available to every student athlete. This is not football specific. This is every single student athlete. We have satellite locations in a lot of different areas. So golf has their own, basketball has their own, swimming has some, volleyball has some. But this is some of the services that we now provide. We do body composition, we do team travel, we do meals and snacks on the road or at home, we do counseling, we do education, lots and lots and lots of supplement education, nutrition assessments, cooking classes, grocery store tours. So from having no services to having all these services, we've come a long way without really having to spend very much money. Just going to mention this overall. This is a really great group. I belong to both of these organizations. SCAN is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics National Sports Organization. It's for people like more of the weekend warrior type, versus CPSDA is collegiate specific. Both of these groups work together to get a lot of stuff accomplished. Deregulation came from CPSDA working with NCAA. SCAN is backing us on that. They don't really care. They don't have anything, they don't have a voice necessarily in college, but they're not going to go against us and say, well, we shouldn't do that. We have one voice speaking. We have one certification that we both recognize, and it helps us get things done a lot faster. So the last thing, we have a nutritionist and they suck. This is kind of the overall thing of why they would suck, why you would say that. So competence, care, and commitment, those are the three things that you need to look at. But it's also your job to reach out to them, because maybe they're struggling trying to figure out how they're going to get in and get their message out. So if you utilize them and they utilize you, it's a win-win situation overall. Last question, why am I an RD? Strength and conditioning got me into the field, got me into college sports, and I love it. Again, I still consider myself a strength and conditioning coach, but this allowed me to have him. It allowed me to have a family, which a lot of times we talk about in the female strength coach breakfast. Turnover happens because females want to have a family, and they don't think it's possible to do that and still be a strength coach. So this was my way of doing that, is transitioning into a little bit of a different role and making that happen. I'm going to pass it over to Rusty Burney. He's going to talk about continuing education.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about continuing education. So collectively, what matters to you? Okay, a lot of the points that I'm going to hit on have been hit upon already, but I'm going to talk a little bit from a different angle. Also, personally, what matters? Okay, so I'm going to go into a little bit of my journey of how I went back to school, how I'm getting my degree, why I did that with 4 kids. Why would I do that? Okay, as a director, why wouldn't I be satisfied with what I have? Okay, so a culture of learning. We all talk about this, how we want to progress, but how do we do this? Okay, on our staff, you heard a little bit about Jana talking about her journey and how she went from a strength coach to an RD. That's a creative solution, okay? So we have to find solutions to deal with the problems that we're having, okay? We're all strength coaches, we don't like to take no for an answer. But sometimes we're a bull in the china shop, and we have to find ways around that. Be creative, okay? If you don't have the money, grow that person into a role. If you want a physical therapist to work with your team, find somebody that meets your goals and grow them into that role, or find that person. Okay, as Josh talked a lot about our professional development, a lot of those things give us a lot of options. The learning stimulates creativity. Okay, that helps create the solutions. When we do a staff book, when we do different things that help us think in that higher level of thinking, we're doing that, okay? We're stimulating that creativity. We're looking at it from a different way. We're trying to find that creative solution. Okay, you heard Coach Ivey talk a little bit about the growth versus the fixed mindset. Okay, what's your environment like? All those different things work into that, okay? And that's a nice little chart, but are you afraid to make mistakes? Are you afraid to go out there and find that creative solution because I don't have the money, I don't have this, I don't have that, okay? Okay, so the culture of learning in yours can be formal education. Okay, we have several people that have done that, but it can also be just personal development, okay? Are you going back to school? Are you doing different things? Or can it just be something that you do for the staff? Can you put an in-service on because you're the person that plays that role and understands Excel? You're that person that understands whatever it might be. Give an in-service, do that for your staff. Okay? Why did I go back to school? As I said, I've got 4 kids, it's not easy. When I started, my reasons were really shallow. I wanted to be like everybody else on our staff. I wanted to have a degree. That was about it, okay? The first time around, I degreed in strength and conditioning. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what I wanted to do. That was my passion. But as I got older, I found out a different way. Okay, my present list of reasons. One thing, I looked at my strengths, all those different evaluations, and I found out that I never really stopped learning, that I was always setting goals. I wanted to do a lot of big things. I didn't do it formally, okay? Now I want to get that piece of paper doing the same thing that I've been doing all along. Okay, a growth opportunity. The degree that I'm seeking right now is in positive coaching, positive psychology. If anybody was at Coach Maratti's presentation yesterday, he talked about some great things that he teaches his kids about making decisions that are above the line or below the line. Okay? This stuff, because it's called positive coaching, because it's called positive psychology, doesn't mean you have to be a soft coach. That means you're learning how to do things to affect people in a great manner. And that has a ripple effect, okay? That's going to affect my family. That's going to help me learn about myself. Okay, this is my number one reason. You know, you have to find yours, but, you know, as you get older, you have your family, and that's the most important thing in life, and I want options for them. Okay, so continuing, a couple of other things, sustainability. You know, do I want to sustain this thing that I've built over the last several years? Do I want to keep going? I do. Right now I do. But will I feel that same way at 50? Will I feel that same way at 60? I don't know. Okay, you heard Coach Stoner, Coach Ivey talk about our core values at Mizzou. And, you know, we're working with our administration. We're working with our athletic department to work on those things. So that was important to me as well. Okay, this slide's in here because it's an awesome picture of Franco Colombo, and I wanted to put it in there. But using your strength assessment, we talk about that as a staff all the time. That's a great thing to be able to find out what you're really about. And one thing, you see all those different vehicles. Coach Stoner already had that up there. I won't go over that too much. But once you find out your strengths, you might be a little bit surprised. Okay, I'm this way, and I thought I was this way. Now what do I do? Okay, I compare it a lot to that kid who's having trouble with his squat, that kid who's having trouble with her clean. Sometimes you got to break it down a little bit to build it back up. Take some of that weight off, you know. We all know how to do that, right? We all know sets and reps. But what are you going to do with yourself? How are you going to use your strengths to be better? Okay? Break yourself down. Learn how to do it every single day. You're going to be more engaged in what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Scott Bird. He's a person that has won a national championship as a player and a coach. He's also our director of baseball strength and conditioning and our director of wildlife parables.
That's good. Thanks, Rusty. As you see some of my slides as we get going, you'll understand what he's talking about. And Coach Height said I needed a lot more pictures in my slideshow, so therefore there's going to be a lot of pictures in there as well. I don't understand why I got chosen to talk about longevity and retirement, since I'm by far the oldest person on staff and the most gray hair. But hopefully some things I can give you that I've done, been able to do along the way can help you. It's kind of a follow-up of what Coach Bernie just talked about. But I've been very fortunate my 25th year in the business, and as Coach Ivey talked earlier, you get to surround yourself by some great people, and that's what I've been very fortunate to do, and I've been very fortunate to be in some great places. And so therefore, I feel like I've learned a lot and tried to continue this thing on this field that I love and hopefully continue on for a long time. The first slide I have here, as you can see, there's a lot of things have changed over the years. In 1990, this was our, besides the bad hair, thanks Bill for pointing that out too earlier, but the bad pants and the bad hair, this was our entire strength staff at Oklahoma in 1990. And as you can see in 2014, much bigger staff at Missouri, and pretty much across the board, that's the way it's been. And so a lot of things have changed. Things we've talked about up here are changing the profession. And so if you guys have a passion and love for the profession like I know I do and all of us do, hopefully you'll be able to take some of these things and be in it for a long time and continue to see it grow. We'll get off that slide real quick. As Coach Bernie said, I'm into this wildlife thing, and something I came across this last fall and really talked to our football team a lot about, and they really got into. I don't know if you guys have researched the wolf packs much at all, but the wolves have been around for over 1 million years, and so like I told our guys, they pretty much got their stuff together, so let's research that a little bit, and how they work as a team is a pretty neat deal. And as I was preparing for this, and I was looking at this that was sitting on my desk, I thought, wow, the 6 points or the 9 points of the credo right there really fall into play to what I wanted to share with you guys. First one, as you see there, respect your elders. One of the things I think we can do as younger strength coaches and coaches in general is just learn from those who have been there. Last night, we now have, 161 master strength coaches. That's a very good resource for you to learn from. Talk to other coaches. It doesn't always have to be a strength coach, but learn from coaches who have been around for a long time. I learned a lot from our swimming coach at Ohio State in the few years I was there. Taught me a lot of stuff. He had been around a long time, had a lot of success, and I got a chance, I'd sit down and talk to him. He's actually one that still, to this day, I remember telling me, if you keep going at this pace, you're going to burn out, and you better do something to not let that happen. As you can see, fundamentals are fundamentals, and they are going to stand the test of time. I think it's imperative that you learn the fundamentals, that you stick with those, but as you can see, things are going to change over time, and so that's something that I think is always good to have. The next one there is teach the young. I think this is a great way as an older coach and staff is to teach the young staff. One of my mentors used to always tell me, you need to learn something each day and teach something each day. So I think we mostly got to make sure we're doing something to teach. As an older coach, make sure we're teaching. If you're a younger coach, you're learning. But you can also teach. I learn a lot from our young staff on a daily basis. Making sure you're passing along the knowledge that you have, I think is something that I'll share. You know, we're at a great conference like this. Make sure you're sharing with others. That's why I enjoy getting a chance to see meet new coaches and share ideas and share thoughts. I think that's something that's great. The next one is there, cooperate with the pack. The way Wolves packs work together, it's really a unique thing, how they help each other survive, how they help each other in the hunt, how each wolf has its own voice in the pack, and they all respect each other's voice. That's something I think it's good. Be a great teammate and coworker. Your role's going to change throughout your career. You're going to, most of you, there's interns, there's volunteers, there's GAs. You'll keep working your way up to, assistant, directors, whatever it might be. So you have to be prepared for that along the way. It's never too early, as Coach Bernie was talking about, to get yourself prepared for maybe a plan B, or if nothing else, it's just, go back to school so you can learn something else that can help you on your job. And you can take this into whatever you decide to do. But you're going to have different roles throughout the time. And sometimes you're on the track up, and sometimes you're going to come back down. I had a visit with a good friend of mine that had gone through that. Went from a director, hit some bad things, down to an assistant again, but he took a great approach. He said, you know what? I'm learning some new stuff now, some things I wouldn't have had a chance to learn. It's going to make me a better coach and set me up in the long run. So your roles are going to change. Part of that role is going to be retirement. I don't think it's too early to start. It's something I wish I had started a little bit earlier. But get with your HR staff. Understand what's out there for you to help prepare you to take care of yourself and your family when it does come time. And hopefully it's a long way down the road, but make sure you're taking care of that now. Next one is play when you can. And I know Coach Stoner alleviated some of this stuff as well. But, have some hobbies outside of work. Making sure you're getting outside. It's great to get in there and get after it and grind and do all those things, but you got to make sure you do some fun things outside of work as well. Some of mine I enjoyed at times. Here's the wildlife thing again. Going out and being able to watch bald eagles. Pretty fascinating thing for me. And also I like to go listen to some live music and hang out with bands. Some friends I have are musicians. That's something that helps me, get away from it all and do those things. Coach Murati yesterday talked about, relieve the pressure. It's a high-stress job at times. So you got to make sure you're doing some things to help relieve that stress. The next one you have there, hunt, work, Grind when you must. Obviously, wolves have to eat. You got to hunt as a pack, and the same thing. We got to make sure we got off-season times. We got to grind. We got to get our nose to the grindstone. We got to get after it. You're getting up early. You're staying late, even more so than normal. You got to have yourself physically and mentally ready for that. You got to have yourself physically and mentally ready for that, just as much as your players do. You ask a lot of them, they're going to be looking at you and expecting a lot in return. So you got to be ready. Just take care of yourself health-wise. Again, a lot of the things we teach our players, we need to make sure we're doing ourselves. Even something as simple as getting the yearly checkup and making sure your health is good so you can continue to do this. If it's something you truly love and have a passion for, you can continue to do it at the level you want to do it for a long time. Also, rest in between. Make sure you have designated downtimes. One of the things we do, we make sure each week we have at least maybe half a day, if possible, for each of us to get a little time away. We aren't always able to take it at times, but you got to make sure. One thing, even one of our young staff brought up to me, when I was a GA, you'd leave and you go off to class for a while. Now with all the online classes, a lot of times they're not doing that. They're sticking around, they're doing this stuff, but still, get away and have those times. Take your vacations. Because if you don't, like I said, I had a coach years ago tell me, you're going to burn out. Make sure you take your vacations. Make sure you get out and enjoy some things away from work. One thing, looking at the Autobahn is a great analogy I had for this. I was talking to one of our players about. I love to drive fast. Like I say, the state police in about 5 different states can attest to that. But if I take my truck and I get out on the Autobahn and I'm going and I'm getting after it, I'm only going to be able to go so far, and that engine's going to burn up because it's not made for that. All right, same thing with us. We got to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. Like I say, you're driving that Autobahn, you can go for a little while, but you got to know when to get off on the exit. You got to know when to get off, give yourself a break, regroup, and get back. So make sure you're doing that and taking care of yourself. Share your affections. Make sure you're taking, like I say, don't forget about your family. And if you're a young staff member, make sure you have an understanding spouse that's going to understand the demands of time and effort that it takes to do this job at a very high level. Remember, your coworkers are family too. Celebrate the good times with them. Celebrate, be there for them if they need you in the bad times. And Coach Stoner alluded to this earlier. It's all about people first. Voice your feelings. Make sure you can be involved in a lot of different things that were talked about here. Like I say, don't be afraid to voice your feelings and get out there and get some things done for the profession. And lastly, just make sure you leave your mark. You will leave a legacy. It's going to be up to you on how to do that, okay, on what you want that legacy to be. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy a not hard road, but it will be hard at times. You'll enjoy a long road in this profession. And again, hopefully if you have the passion and the love for it like I do and we do, that you'll get a chance to enjoy it for a long time. And lastly, thank you guys for sticking with us in here, and appreciate everything you do.
We're doing a positive coaching workshop June 16th through the 19th on our campus. You're welcome to stop by, go online, look it up. We have an online coaching master's degree program. There's the website for you. A couple of resources I just wanted to point out. We still know how to train athletes. We know how to train football players. So there's a book written by Coach Stoner and myself, Complete Conditioning for Football. You can go through Amazon or go through Human Kinetics, find that. As well as Dr. Mann, he was on our staff. He still works with our soccer team. And Dan Austin, they wrote a book on powerlifting. We know this is a big sandwich to digest. We're going to put our entire presentation on our website, so you'll be able to get all this stuff. Don't worry about it if you didn't get a chance to write it down. It'll be on the www.MUTigers.com website. We have, this should be in your packet, our social media contact. We really appreciate, we wanted to save a little bit more time for questions, but I guess we have some people up here that like to perform under the lights and went a little long. So what I promise you, we'll be out, anybody with a Missouri Tiger shirt or whatever, we'll be out in the hallways. If you want to stop by and talk to us, we'll be out there as long as you want to talk. Appreciate it. Thank you.